All right, welcome everybody to this episode 65 of the Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, as always, your host. We go live to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube every Thursday at 3 o'clock. We bring you leaders and leadership, addressing topics that matter most to us today in business, in community, and in commerce. And today we've got not only a friend, but a leader amongst leaders, and we will introduce him in just a moment, but I want to cover off on a couple of housekeeping items. You can find all of our episodes of Navigating Now at thoughtteam.com/live. We particularly want to welcome our LinkedIn community for joining us. We go live to LinkedIn as part of their beta program every Thursday afternoon, and for almost 70 straight weeks, we've been bringing great content to those folks on LinkedIn, and we absolutely love your viewership and your engagement. So thank you for joining. As always, throughout, feel free to ask questions, whether that's in the chat box or on social media. We'll keep an eye out for those. We'll go for about 45 or 50 minutes, and we might hit Stephen with some speed round questions, as always, at the end. Today, we're talking about building and scaling client services businesses. And this is a topic that is not only near and dear to our heart here at Thoughtteam, but it is a journey that we've been on for the last 5 years. And a part of my journey has been surrounding myself, particularly with those folks who have done it and have done it really well in the past. And today we have Stephen Lynch. He's the co-founder and CEO of L2. We'll talk a little bit about his business here in a moment, but first and foremost, Stephen, wanted to thank you for joining and welcome you to the table.
Hey, Anthony, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Absolutely. So before I provide a little context as to how you became a part of the Navigating Now community, we always like to start the conversation with a nod to your past. So Stephen, we love asking leaders this question. You are a 30-plus year entrepreneur. You have been very successful both in and outside of business. As you think back to your earlier years, we'll just call it your earlier years, prior to starting the business, maybe in your childhood, your adolescence, what is the earliest memory or expression of the work that you love to do today? What experience or memory from your childhood can you bring forward and tie to exactly what you're doing today as a leader?
So when I think back on that, it would probably be the artist in me. And that goes back to drawing as a kid. I knew, and then kind of fast forward out of the super young years and get into the high school years, I knew that I wanted to do something that had to do with art. And I ended up going to a vocational school during high school, and I did some drawing, but I was never a great artist. I've got a friend, Paul Turnbow, who can just draw. It's a natural talent. Mine was always forced. And I ended up going to a vocational school, learn how to run a printing press, because I could take what the artist did and turn it into a printed piece. Then when I went to college, I went to school for art. I ended up getting out of school, working for a software development company in Boston. So I bridged that gap between the art and the technology side. So that would have been like in '86. So the time was just perfect to get into the market of the creative side and this new digital world that was starting upon us. Again, you got to remember, this is back in, I don't know, were CDs even a thing yet?
They probably were a thing, but they were a lot more expensive than the $20 CDs that you and I bought later in life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd say it went back to the art side of what I did, because even what we do today, you'll see that there's a whole creative side to our company.
Mm-hmm. And at the time, did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Did you know that you wanted to run your own thing?
Oh God, no. It was one day when Tammy and I started the business, and we were actually working at the same company for a company in Des Plaines, and she came to me and said, "We're quitting our jobs and starting our own business." And I said, "Okay, what are we doing?" And that's how it started. Literally, it started that way.
Mm-hmm. And so, fast forward 30 years, and you have built and scaled and sustained a very successful client services business. Tell us a little bit about L2, and I want you to take us through what did L2 start as, what is it today, and what will it be 3 to 5 years from now?
It's a really good question, because none of those are the same. I use the term like metamorphosis, transformations. You've got to always be looking and moving and changing. So we started out, if you go back to kind of the story I told about coming out of school and working for a software development company, this goes back into the days of the advertising agencies. And if you know what the terms keyline and paste up are, it's the way ads used to be done on a board with overlays and colors and all sorts of things. We were teaching agencies how to, a consulting business, we were brought in, consulted, and we would help them transform their whole art department into electronics. This is back in the Apple 2s E, like the SE30,
yeah, 2GS,
black and white.
2G,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is before even the Mac 2 was out.
Wow.
So we were helping agencies convert what they would do in typesetting and all that. And that's how we started. I mean, it almost sounds archaic, but it by today's terms, and it was. That's how we started as a consulting firm. And we would get projects to go in and help convert organizations into the digital world. Teach a copywriter how to actually write copy to fit in a format where right now you're like, that's just a given. Everybody does it. That wasn't how it used to work. So that goes back 30 years ago. That's what we started doing. And that converted into a meeting we had with an executive at a firm we were working for that said, hey, I've got a presentation I got to put together. And this is before PowerPoint and all those other tools. We put together, and if anybody remembers Macromedia Director, there was one before that called VideoWorks. And we put together a little video work animation. And he presented to the board, and that started a whole nother part of our business, which was helping with the presentation side. Back in those days, it was the slides they would put in the carousels and forward to the next one. So we moved from the digital world of art boards to how do you do electronically, to the presentation side, to the next thing you know, we were asked to do some CD-ROM development. So we got into the software development side of it. My background, when I was in, part of that story, when I was in, I think it was 8th grade summer, I went to, I didn't go to basketball camp. I didn't go to triathlon camp. I went to computer camp. So I learned like assembly language programming as a kid. And I also had the art side. And what I do today is exactly that, what we do today. So we went from the art boards to the presentations to CD-ROM, full catalogs of products online. And then we went into, in 1994 was our first web development project for a company called Genderm that sold 2 products. They sold an acne medicine and an arthritis cream. And we were the fulfillment house. We had boxes of their product. The modem would ring when it was calling the bank, and the laser printer would print out the sheet. We'd package it up and ship it out. So that got us into the web world. The web world then got us into doing, full web builds and e-commerce. We work with organizations. Our primary areas are like the performing arts. If you're in Chicago, you know who Chicago Shakespeare Theater is. If you're in New York, you know Manhattan Theater Club or Carnegie Hall or Metropolitan Opera, all the way to the Sydney Opera House. All around the world, organizations we work with in that area. But it's all in like the web development side. And we just keep evolving and changing and growing because the consulting we were doing before doesn't exist anymore. And you need to keep looking to see what's coming and what's going to happen and find those opportunities. So
No, I love that. And I, as you take us through kind of the evolution of L2, were there moments along the way where you almost had your heels dug so deeply into what you thought you should be? And were there moments where you felt like you maybe needed to let go of that expectation? Or was it more the market speaking that guided the decisions that you made and the pivots that you made?
It tends to be the market for us. And although there's some things we get comfortable in and we realize that we shouldn't be so comfortable in, and so we then decide to take action on it. One of the things that I describe in the client service side of the business is, sure, we've done work for McDonald's, we've done work for Valspar, we've done work for Marriott, we've done work for all sorts of organizations, big companies. People come and go from them. And sometimes your fate with them lands on where that person is that you were working with and where they go. It happens. That's part of the nature of it. So I describe the client service isn't a relationship with like the big company. It's a relationship with the person we're working for. My job, and I've learned this early on, there was somebody we were working with at US Robotics that had a contract with them. They brought us in. and we did some awesome work for them. Next place they went, they called us. I've got one of my friends, Jessica Kornacki, was at Marriott, brought us to Wyndham. We're still doing work for Wyndham, and she's moved on to Hyatt and other places. So it's about relationship with people. And that I can name like 10 people that I built relationships over the years that we've done work for over and over again. Yeah. Our job is to help them become successful. And that's what creates that longer term. We've been in business, like you mentioned, 32 years now. We've never had a salesperson. It's all been through relationship building is how we've done it. And there's moments that's been scary.
I love that.
It's been scary. I wish we had salespeople that were out there pushing it. There are times where on a Monday in January, we're looking at each other going, all right, what's going to happen next? Because it was always contract to contract. And sometimes when those projects were done, we didn't know what was happening. Whether it's, luck, fate, whatever it is, it's always worked out. And we've always kind of continued to grow and evolve the business through all these years.
I want to stay here just in terms of like the scalability of a client services business, because I think when a lot of us go into business, we have this image of, starting, like myself as a solo practitioner, maybe bringing 1 or 2 people on board. And then you hear this term, I need to scale the business. And in client services and in consulting, particularly, scaling the business to us can mean, well, I need to get as many new clients in as possible, as much new business in as possible. And scaling means adding more and more and more employees. But one of the things that you realize very quickly is that you could spend your entire career and the entire life of your company investing in your first and second degree of client relationships that you started with. And the saying is true. You only need one. You start with one really good client. You've got a good set of people around that person that you're working for. He or she is touting the way that you're working with them and the services that you deliver. And next thing you know, you've got 2 or 3. And to your point, in consulting, one of the biggest ways that you attract new business is leaders that are transitioning to new organizations. Yep. And so I think one of the biggest things that we've been pleasantly surprised with in now just 5 years, which I know is a blip against your 30 years, is that we could spend the next 25 years pouring into our existing client set, expanding those relationships, maintaining those personal relationships with individual leaders that we work with on a regular basis. And it sounds like that's what you all have been able to achieve. My question, maybe in follow-up then, is how has your team gotten bigger and smaller based on this model of really focusing on your first and second degree?
Yeah, there's again, for the number of years we've been in business, we've seen different evolutions. In the first probably 7 or 8 years, we had 2, 3, 4. I think we hired the pizza delivery guy one time when he delivered pizza. We asked him the code and we hired him. I actually, that's a true story.
Oh, you actually did?
We actually did, yeah. Okay. And for me personally and for our firm, like the idea of scaling up to like 50, 70, 100, 200, 300 employees, I was very uncomfortable at about 45, 50 employees. It was too much. It wasn't what made me comfortable. It wasn't what I liked. And so we have a really nice, comfortable number. It's a great group of people that are all really smart adults, can make good decisions. And we've had years where we had way too much extra people that didn't care. They seemed like they did, but they didn't. And it's really gotten to a really good group. That to me is finding that sweet spot where you operate best is the most important part of it. Because you need to have fun while you're doing this. You can't be overstressed. And there were years where I went through complete stress over this. And like that whole evolution of also being able to not micromanage and learn how to delegate and trust people. In a client service business, it's important that it's a tough one because it's all about relationships and it's so easy to screw up a relationship. It's about delivering for your customer, your client, so that when they walk into the board meeting or wherever they're going, like they have everything they need, whether it's the presentation, whether it's the website, whether it's results, whatever it is they need, they can get.
A couple questions. I want to stay here because this is just so good in terms of, those folks who are running small businesses and thinking about, size and scalability. You said that at about 40 to 50 employees, that got uncomfortable. What was uncomfortable about that threshold for you and the leadership team?
Just, I don't know, the word babysitting seemed to be inappropriate, just too much. I got too far away from what was going on and more overall, like, yeah, I just didn't like managing the people side of it as much. I mean, and we have got a great group of people who do that internally, but I think just for us, it was, and what's funny is we were less profitable then.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we had more didn't mean, and we had more clients didn't mean that we were taking on the right kind of work. And that's also something we learned to do through the years, is to go, all right, as much as I didn't get that project, like, why didn't I? And sometimes we walk away 6 months later and go, okay, I know why we didn't get that project. I'm glad we didn't. And other times you're not, you wish you would have gotten it.
Yeah. And so now that you feel like you've kind of hit that sweet spot, are you still generating new business mainly from kind of your contacts? Do you have leaders in place that are generating new business? How are you sustaining or growing your business today?
It is from the contacts we've made, and even in the arts organizations. It's called musical chairs. Once a season, people move from being a marketing manager at this one to another one. And if they've had success with us, they bring us along and bring our products. And this is in that evolution of our business. The part I haven't gotten to is kind of where we're at now, because we were doing big consulting projects where, we would need those to be landing all the time. And they're not that easy to land. It's big contract work, a lot of money involved, a lot of contracts and paperwork involved, and time. What we've evolved ourselves into, and it's a really interesting, is the whole kind of software as a service, or the reoccurring financial model. And
residual income, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because not only do we do the website development side, now we've got a marketing automation platform that we have that's integrated with some CRM systems. And we've got hundreds of clients around the world using that. Well, those are like reoccurring monthly. They're using the tool, it generates revenue. We invest back into the tool and we keep building it. And same thing, we launched a donation, a streaming, and a fundraising, and a like membership side that organizations are using, and that generates reoccurring revenue for us. So I think having in your portfolio of client services, there is that consulting projects, there's those really big ones, but you also need those ongoing smaller ones. You need reoccurring revenue. You need, and so for us, word of mouth with these products, other people hear about it, and we just keep adding more clients through that. Yep. And the website side gets the phone calls as well. So it's having multiple revenue streams is really important, I think, to creating a sustainable and more comfortable like business model, because otherwise in client services, if you're not on a retainer, and sometimes retainers are really difficult to manage and take care of, and it just gets to be kind of difficult. The project by project can be very scary on the client service side. Yeah.
Most recently, you were explaining one of your very specific products that has offered you a little bit of this residual revenue, and it has to do with, and forgive me if I get this wrong, but it has to do with the way that I interact with a fine arts company. If I'm paying for something, I have the opportunity to potentially donate some more. Tell us a little bit about that, because that felt very real and very tangible to me. And it also is a perfect example of a revenue stream that takes care of itself, that is scalable, and that does not require a team of consultants.
Right. So in your journey of doing client services and consulting and understanding what the organizations need, I've had so many people come in. I'm going to divert the thought process a little bit here, because it gets to like, how did this product become something that is something we can do? When people have an idea for a business and you sit there and listen to it, it's like, oh, you build an app for that. And it's like, okay, number one, it's that I've heard that so many times. You need to have the marketing aspect of this. And I'm sure there's probably some pieces I'm missing, but the marketing, you need to understand how to do. The software development side, you need to have available. But more importantly, you need to have somebody with domain knowledge in a certain area. Like, we could have the greatest idea for a car dealership and how I went and bought a car and I could do this thing. And because we're doing consulting in the car business, but nobody in our firm has any knowledge about how car dealerships work and how all that technology, where they buy it, how it works. You need somebody with domain knowledge. Well, our 30 years of experience in the performing arts gave us that domain knowledge. So we're able to take all that knowledge, and we know how people give to these organizations. You go to their website and there's a form, and it's who's it in honor of? Is it your brother's, mother's, sister's, uncle? Give us your birthday, give us all these different things. And people walk away, they leave. And we looked at an opportunity right around COVID and said, why don't we create a really, really fast way for people to give? Literally the form shows up, there's Apple Pay, Google Pay, or credit card, and you hit the pay button, and we take care of and integrate all the rest of it for the CRM system. And that's what we did. So that Donate To is what we call a cart-free transaction. There is no cart. You don't add it to a cart. You don't check out. You don't create an account. You see it and you pay for it. Whether that's an access to a digital stream, it's a membership into the High Museum in Atlanta, or whether it's a donation to any one of these hundreds of arts organizations I talked about. So we built the tool because we have all that CRM knowledge. We have the knowledge of this industry. And we looked and said, we can create a reoccurring revenue product, price it really low, price it at a small percentage, and we just need volume. And so over the last year, it just builds and builds and builds. And it just takes effort, and you got to put effort and time into it. But if you've got those elements, like we're a software development company, we're also a creative, firm, and we have the tools to do it. And so we decided, rather than doing it for other people, we started to build it for ourselves and launch this up. And now we have, with our Prospect To marketing automation, or Donate To and Stream To, we've got reoccurring revenue that is available to us that we've never had before for whatever it was, 29 years prior to this.
Yeah, I love that. And the key there, I just love hearing you talk about the evolution of your business model. You had to be in that work for decades in order to understand the market opportunity, but also like how it would be designed, developed, and implemented. It's not something that you just got in a room and you had a brainstorming session and you said, well, what if we come up with this product or this service? It showed up because you were in the work. And it's interesting because in the early days of building a consulting company, we joke that some of our kind of wildest ideas are born out of the day-to-day work that we're doing with our clients. And we joke that some of those ideas, although wild today, are most likely going to be the ones that we're refining and shaping and will become even more and more inevitable as we continue to prove ourselves in the market. It's almost like we have these great ideas. We know that they're proof of concept, but it's going to take us, I personally feel like it's going to take us a little bit of time to continue to be in the work with our clients, to continue to try to test these ideas behind the scenes to where it's almost inevitable. And it sounds like a few of these reoccurring revenue streams became inevitable because you were so deeply in the work.
Yeah, it absolutely. And that donation tool didn't just kind of came out. We had it on a whiteboard 2 years ago. We have a digital whiteboard that we would just have when we have ideas. We had ideas for kiosks and all sorts of different things. Then you have to have discussion like, well, there's hardware involved. It's a more difficult product to sell and get out and distribute. And so when COVID hit, we said, we're going to clearly have some time here because things are shutting down. What do? We went to the whiteboard and we resurrected that idea. And that's where it took off. And now we've got clients all over the world doing transactions, whether it's the Australian Ballet taking in donations, or whether it's Chicago Shakespeare selling a package of 7 or 8 tickets that are flexible, where you can use them for wherever you want in the season. You can take 7 people with you, or you can take 1 or 2, and go to 2 or 3 different shows. So there's so many different ways organizations are using that we didn't dream up. And what we did was, while we're listening and building this, we keep listening to the clients and adding the features that make sense, that we hear, that we know are reproducible, because we already know it isn't one client. It's hundreds that we know. And when we hear it, we're like, okay, they could all use the exact same thing. And so when they add the features, they add value, and now more people want it.
Yeah. What, let's stay on client services as a topic. What are some of the things that, you would say are absolute must knows or must haves to become a successful client services organization? Because we work with and talk to a lot of folks that are thinking about going out on their own. They're thinking about doing some independent consulting or coaching, and they're coming from large organizations. And what we realize is oftentimes there's these kind of eye-opening moments of just how different client services is when you're in a service industry, how different that is than working for a large organization or being in industry, as people would call it? What are some of the things to know if you're transitioning into more of a client services world?
This is probably something Tammy taught everyone early on is you don't use the word no. You find a different way to say it, or you figure out how to shape it a little differently. And it sounds, it can be strategic in the way you do the words, but when you're in the client services, it's about servicing that client and their needs and listening and delivering. I can tell you from early on, I describe it as I worked 17 hours a day for 17 years is about what I worked. I would get up in the morning and hit it. I would go to bed late and be up, get home, and what's interesting, it's kind of a fun story is, my daughter was born like 3 or 4 or 5 years into the business. Sydney is now a team member. She has her own son, Hank. So I've got a grandson. And so there's and my dad, you've met my dad, Jack. He's 92. He answers the phones when we were in the office. So we've got like multiple generations in the family. So it's been, but it's like from the client service side, it's really important that it's tough. It's a lot of hard commitment work, and the other thing I would throw into this is early on, we were, and you have to find the fine line between this is, it's just because it takes me 20 hours and here's what my hourly rate is, that's what this project should cost. That's not a good way to do it. You have to understand your value. You'll never grow out of anything other than yourself. And you know as well as I do, when you started your business, you asked me about this and I said, well, you're going to find yourself out trying to sell to get new work. You're then going to be having to do the work. You're then going to having to collect the money for the work, and you have to be selling the next job. Yeah. How do you do all that at the same time, in 24 hours a day and 7 days a week? And it's a tough hole to get through and to get that all worked out.
Yeah.
So
I want to,
if you do just like an hourly rate on it, you won't ever get out of that. You have to understand your value. And it depends on the client. And I prefer clients, we have honest conversations and they have, here's what our budget is, here's what we need to do. And we have an honest conversation on what we can get for that and what works for both of us. That's really the best way to do it.
And that structure will evolve as you, and again, in the consulting space, as you become more than just an individual or independent practitioner, and you bring on a team. And it's not about the fact that you have more that you've got to support in a bigger team. That's not a problem that your client should have to solve for. It's to your point, it's the value exchange and the market value of your services. You must realize the value of your services go up as you continue to prove yourself in the marketplace and you get more efficient with driving those services. And it is it's an absolute real challenge, especially for us who, maybe started as an independent consultant or an independent coach, to switch to that mind frame of constantly assessing your market value and understanding your position within the market and understanding that true value exchange between your services and your client. And in 99 out of 100 times, your client's willing to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I want to put one other thing in front of you, because I love your first piece of advice is find alternative ways of saying no, or never say no, right? I mean, that's a little bit of the age ode, but I like your explanation behind it. We have a mantra here as well too, and it goes by you can't believe, or you shouldn't believe in your solution more than the client. And I want to put that out there and see what your reaction is on that. When you're working with clients and you truly deeply believe in either the solution or its application, the value that it might bring your client, the impact that it'll have on their team or their organization, and you're working with a client that maybe hasn't fully stepped into the opportunity, or they've already signed the contract, but you're not getting the sponsorship that you necessarily need. What type of philosophy do you follow? And, how do you maybe increase engagement with clients that, aren't fully stepping into the work?
Yeah, there's without a doubt, there's cases where we've had a project start up and they almost ghost. And there's a lot of times there's different reasons for it. Um, part of like the early on in when they're going to sign the contract and get started with it is that they understand and they see what our experience is and what we've done for others. And that's always that hardest first thing is, how do I get the experience? How do I get that first one or two projects that I can show as an example? Yeah. And that's always like the hardest part. And sometimes you've got to work extra hard to get those, but then you've got them in your portfolio. Yeah, that's a tough one, just because if they don't believe in it in the end, like, and we've had cases where we just have had to walk away from something that just got to a point when they signed a contract, but never wouldn't fully engage. The right people weren't there. Nobody would commit. And at some point you've got to just say, like, as enough is enough. And like, you can't waste more time just trying to get this jump started. The other thing I was going to say was, on a more like individual basis, I try and simplify this like really, really granularly, but it could be used in a bigger picture. Is if, let's say, we're doing a design and we come to them and we show them some examples of here's how this should look. Here's the branding. Here's the styling, which should be. If they come back and they're like, well, I like it, but I want to see it in red. We'll show them and explain. I will like our mantra is like, we'll explain why red isn't right one time and show them what they should do. Show them, and we'll show them the second time. Mm-hmm. But it comes to that third time, like, here's the color, you can pick it and we'll go with what you want. Like, there's a certain point where you can't convince somebody like what the answer should be, even though you have all the faith and heart in what it is. It's that first time I'll try, second time I'll try, third time, you're going to get what you want. Sure. And a lot of times we'll find, like, by the second time, they see the angle, they see the understanding, and they follow along with what we're deciding. But there's plenty of times where we've just had to give in and do what they need, because it wasn't going to happen any other way. Yeah.
I love how transparent and honest you've always been with me about what it takes. You and I, over the course of, gosh, it's been at least 5 or 7 years of these conversations about building a business. You've always been very, very honest about what it takes, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And even today, you shared a little bit of, like, the first 17 years were a little bit of a grind, right, for you. Tell us about how you've taken care of yourself. Tell us about some lessons learned in prioritizing your health, your family, and how maybe you see work and life a little bit different today than you did 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's there's so much emotion, like, wrapped up in that. Probably the best way to describe it is, I think it was 2012, I ended up having meniscus surgery done on my knee. I weighed a lot. I weighed like about 195 pounds. Just overall wasn't real happy with myself, but working a lot. And I ended up doing a 5K. Sandy asked me, she's like, hey, want to do a 5K? So we did. And so life kind of went on. I did some more things. Next thing I know, and I can't remember how it exactly started into the triathlon side, but I got kind of hooked into it, and I went and did one up in Indiana. And I remember the swim was terrible. I think I drowned. The bike ride was okay. It was kind of fun. And then when I ran, I took like 4 steps and everything froze up. And I then walked like the 13 miles to the end, and it was dark out, and it was only a half Ironman. So like that was, so I just got into like working out, but the journey of that really got me. And I'm very, I think it's, I will do something and master it and then move on. My dad's been a photographer, and then he went into like a fountain pen repair, and he did like model airplane. It's a thing that came in the genes. So I tend to like master something and try and move on. And with the triathlon, what it did was I put a lot of time and energy into it, and it made me step away a little bit, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, but definitely the business has evolved a little bit during that time. And I actually have a little different attitude where I'm less, there's areas of the business that I don't even know, I don't need to, because I've got a team of people working on it, where I used to get my nose in everything, and I don't now. And I really like it. I love when I hear the other part, like the web team's having success. It's great. And the marketing automation team, they're having success. That's great. I've been focusing more on the donate to and the streaming side right now, but I think it's that gave me something to like really challenge myself with, which gave me time to get in better shape, feel better about myself. And also I think just chill a little bit about life and work. And
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I ask so many leaders this, and even through my personal experience, like it's an exercise of letting go. It really is. In the early days, that is really difficult because if you let go, you don't have a business.
I describe it, Anthony, that like in the first like whatever years, there wasn't a pixel and there wasn't like a penny that moved and I didn't know it. So whether it was things we were creating, whether a pixel is in like anything on a digital like email or whatever, I knew it, to the money coming in and out, I knew it. And like you got it. I feel like you got to do that for a while, but you also then have to find the right people that you can trust and can take over things. We've got some people that have worked with us for 18 years or more, and I love them like family. And I trust them, and that's what you need.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned something earlier that I wanted to double click on. You had said that today, in kind of your evolution as a leader and the need within the business, you're almost focused on a couple of very specific things, and you've got a team kind of around you that are really driving the rest of the business. At what point did you both realize, and were you able to focus on one or two things? Like, at what point did it become more valuable for you to focus on a couple of things very deeply and stop kind of, or let go of the every pixel, every penny approach?
There's definitely like an evolution over some time with that. And I think the triathlon thing, and one of the things was I said I like master things, and where I went and raced, and I did what I needed to do. And then when I that was over, I needed something else. And that's when COVID hit. And it was a catalyst to go, all right, let's wipe off this whiteboard. Let's look in here and find something, because we don't know what the future is going to hold for the next year. We had no idea.
Yeah.
They're arts organizations. They can't perform. What are they going to do? They aren't using they need to market and get out with our market automation, but the website development side, what are they going to do? They don't have funding to do it. They're closing down. They're furloughing. There's all sorts of bad things that were happening. And so we looked at it and said, how do we help them build? And that's why I focused on that. And I was able to handpick a couple team members, and we've made this work. And I tell Mike and Matt and Sydney and Courtney and everybody like this. I love what I do, what we're doing, and to be able to focus on this.
Yeah.
I love every day of doing this. And that's 32 years later.
I love that, because, it's what I'm realizing is like almost a proxy of whether you are ready to really build the business and put a team underneath you, is if you get really, really excited by not having to be in every corner of your business. And even this early on, like I know myself and Norm and other leaders, we get so pumped when we know that there's corners of our business that are either being built from the ground up from folks that are just joining, or corners of the business that are truly sustainable and do not necessarily need, our focus day to day. And I think that it's a good proxy, because I do think there are other aspects of the business that are maybe a little bit less exciting when you feel like, it's time to let go, or because it's either work that you're really passionate about, or you just have such a firm grip on it, whether it's the finances or the operations, et cetera. But I think the game as a leader is to get to a point where most every aspect of your business is completely sustainable by extremely talented people. And you're then able to invest back in the business almost on an individual contributor basis in the areas that the business needs it the most. And like for me, as the head of our organization, like my end game is never to be completely detached from the business where it's just completely running without me and I'm out playing golf, or I don't know, maybe doing another Ironman with you. That's not the vision for me. Like the vision for me, like an ideal state is where we have a growing, thriving business, and I have the opportunity to go super deep in aspects of the business that I've always wanted to light up. And I'm even this early on, I'm getting to do that in some regards, and it's like the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, that's pretty
and
cool.
You're doing that now too. Yeah, I can sense that you're doing that right now on some of the work that you're working on. It's deep, it's practitionership, but it's expressing the type of art form or craft that you love within a business that you've built here for 30 years.
Yep. Yeah, no, and what you described as that when things are kind of working in another area, and like you should be excited about the fact that you can go, oh, look at that. That's actually like, that's working without my involvement.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah. We got it kind of going, and people took it and they're running with it, and and having people you can trust to do that is really important.
Yeah. I love it. We have a couple minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about the future, and I'm excited to ask you. I've been asking more and more people this, and there's folks on my team that are even joking about how much I'm into this because it's so tangential to what we're doing. But I argue that it's right around the corner. Are you all paying attention to Web 3.0 and kind of what's in that space? I mean, I know you dabble. You've got some clients in the arts space. Are you thinking about NFTs? Are you thinking about digital currency and what that might do or how it might impact your business?
Yeah, like one of the things that like on our Donate to, Stream to, and Flex to side, we partnered with Stripe, and Stripe is like announced that they're going to, whatever include this currency stuff in there and the cryptocurrency thing. So that's like we've got a nice placeholder there. And we're not about building out giant pieces of technology. We're integrators, and we put all the pieces together and we create really cool products out of it. So that, and like when it comes to like things like artwork, and we've had some discussions internally about the funds and just what can be done with that, and like the kinds of offerings that these arts organizations or museums could offer. There is definitely something there. Just got to figure out how for us it fits in as part of our product line, because remember, everything we're doing with like these new tools are about transactions for streaming video, or for, and maybe it's you buy the streaming video and you also then have this other benefit that comes along with it. You make the donation and these other benefits come along with it, but it's all through the, tokens.
Or that the consumption of that content is happening in a completely different place. There's been a lot of talk about Facebook's Metaverse and how this is going to be bringing AR and VR together in almost this completely new environment. And you're going to be transacting in this environment. You're going to be collecting in this environment. I think, we're paying attention to it because particularly, I think we see the immediacy of it. I think it's the pandemic has accelerated, but the way that we exist within technology. You think about even just the last 18 months, how we've taken an entire society, an entire race of humans and we've made them not only comfortable, but competent and expecting to be behind a digital camera all day, in the business world, at least, right? Like the behaviors are shifting so drastically that I can just imagine a new technology or a new platform coming through, and the adoption is going to be a lot quicker. And that's got to have downstream effects, on businesses, even like ours and yours.
Yeah, no, there's without a doubt, like the COVID, the catalyst and what happened there, and I joke about like the most basic version of all this kind of technology you talk about is a QR code. If you remember like 8 years ago, you'd be at Home Depot and on like a flower pot, there'd be a QR code, you scan it, but you had to download an app and scan it. And like, you were kind of wondering what this was for. And like,
you'd be like, absolutely not QR code. Yeah, no way.
Yeah. And so, but now people didn't realize there was a year or two period where all the phones can just scan and it was all built in, but nobody knew it.
Right.
And
until they had
COVID
to.
hits, and now restaurants use QR codes, and like you used to have to teach somebody how to do it. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's just even like a catalyst of like QR codes now are, you sit down at the Boston Symphony Orchestra and open up your booklet, for your performance. And there's a QR code to scan me to donate. You know what to do. You don't have to be told what to do. Before you would have seen that, you'd been like, what am I do? What's this for? So now you can just scan it with your phone while you're sitting there, hit Apple Pay and give them $15 or $100 or whatever you want to give them. So that like, those are just like, there's so many things that have changed. To the fact that my dad knows how to get on and do like meetings and set his background. He's 92 years old. And my grandson, who's now just 2 years old, like when he hears the phone ring, the FaceTime thing, he like pops up and he knows that something's going on. Like it is because we wouldn't have been doing this much communication digitally without what happened. It just wouldn't have happened. We would have been going about our life. So yes, I think that there's like major changes are going to happen in all sorts of different ways, from some obvious things like QR codes to like little kids that understand what FaceTime and all this is.
What are some of the other things that maybe you're paying attention to? And more specifically, are there certain things you're reading on a regular basis, or podcasts you're listening to? Are there shows you're watching, even if it's more for fun? What are you geeking out about?
I geek out more in like looking at, I know it sounds stupid, but like APIs and new features and releases for the systems that we integrate together. That tends to be my thing is both on the creative side and then on the software development side.
Yeah. And what does Sandy say on like a Thursday night when you sit down and you say, I want to take a look at some APIs?
She tells me to put my laptop away and closes my laptop on me. And I'm like, I got some things I got to do. And she like closes my laptop on me. So I need to do better. I need to need to unplug and she's going to like, did she call you and pay you to say that?
No, no, but I know her. And I know she would probably give you a little bit of an eye roll, and you would know to close your laptop.
Well, I'm working on being able to do that. So
that's awesome. Stephen, we didn't have an opportunity to really, I wanted to bring in the topic of mentorship. We didn't necessarily have a chance to unpack it. So I will simply make a bit of a statement, and I don't know if I've told you this before, but you had such an impact on my career and my life, in that I've known over the course of the last 4 or 5 years that I can call you with anything. And I also know that you can come with just very straightforward, sometimes very transparent advice and hard-hitting facts about what it truly takes, not just to run a business, but to grow as an individual and a professional. And, I've always considered mentorship to be two ways. So it's also really gratifying to have these discussions with you and to know that you're getting a little bit out of it as well too.
Oh yeah, no, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, again, for anyone who's out there that is thinking about starting a client services business or a business at all, I mean, your business, your idea is only as good as that first degree of people that you have around you. And that could be your clients, but that also could be your friends and your mentors. And Stephen, you've just been so much of a mentor and a friend to me. And I just really want to thank you for that.
Anthony, and I've known you for some time now, and we need to go have a steak and some wine and just talk some more. But I appreciate it. And I love our relationship and being able to communicate and give you advice. And yeah, it's pretty special.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the Navigating Now community. We're so pumped to have you. It's been too long not having you. I'm not sure how we went 66 episodes without you, but welcome. I'm sure this won't be the last time. We appreciate your practitionership. We appreciate your leadership and your insights as well too. So as we wrap up here, I want to share that we are continuing with our Navigating Now next week with a special episode. We're going to be doing a bit of a 2021 year in review. And I know this is a little bit earlier than we typically do it, but we want to make sure we get ahead of the holiday hustle and bustle. So myself and Norm Ralph and Amanda Lobo will be at the table next week, looking back at our top 5 or 6 moments from the virtual Roundtable series from our Navigating Now episodes. And there were so many this year. So really, really excited for everybody to tune into that. Of course, we'll be sending the recording of that out after next week. But Stephen, thank you so much for joining. We go live every week at 3:00 on Thursdays. You can find us at www.thoughttium.com/live. We hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. So long.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.